There are few people who, within the time that they are given on earth, find it unacceptable to not live life with absolute conviction in service of others and without fear. Hachalu was one of those people. We know that not only from his life, but in the event of his death, so many lives and timelines, whether political, social, or otherwise, were altered in magnificent and irreversible ways. Let's take a look at some of what encompasses the weighty legacy of Haacaaluu Hundeessaa. Hachalu was delicate and enamoring when he centered women in his music as love interests. But he was deliberate to spotlight the force that Oromo women bring to our struggle for liberation. When he said in Oromummaa she ni jaalle, eenyummaa she fiduuti, aadaa she guddisuuf oliif gadi kaati, sabboontuu Oromoo ishee yoomuun boonti. He paints a picture of a fierce Oromo woman organizer who was unafraid and unfailing in her mission. In the staunch tribute to the warrior Wallo people in Kulle Ko, he centers the heroic persona of Kulle when he says, Bareedina keessan gootummaa ishee argee yoomuu horraaf baatu. I saw heroism in her beauty as she was going out for horra. After the assassination of Hachalu, many Oromo people reflected on part of his legacy as being that of a cultural archive. When you hear the words Riga Shole, it conjures the visual of a striking Karayu man with his riga in mouth, traveling on foot or preparing for battle. When you hear Ya Galgalesi Tu Lal Tumanuki, imagery of a woman or man seated somewhere outside of a house, moye between their feet or knees, pounding the nugi is evoked. Hachalu's work is a place for our reflections to exist in their diversity and their authenticity. He would often take folk songs and remake them in ways that keep their essence intact whilst popularizing them, connecting millions to their roots. And he was poetic, masterful in his ability to use the Oromo language to provoke the heart and mind. You can hear a lyric and meditate on it again and again, purely because of its linguistic prowess. Like when he says in Sagale Ketin Hawa, Madda Walabu, a place of miracle, Tole. All the old man and woman at the place of Mudda anointing, Tole. If we disagree, may you resolve it for us as you do, Tole. You are a venue for history and the promulgation of laws, Tole. Or when he says again in Kuleko, a great one originated from Walabu, a still morning water. I can't quite quench my yearning for you, and I'm shaken by the waves of your thoughts. When Jirra was released, it was like our ability to articulate a future, a hope, an optimism was resuscitated. Jirra bulle bari arguf. We are here. We have experienced the night to bear witness to the sunrise. He could not imagine a version of the future where we remain defeated and without belief that something better was on the horizon. Kuno har alle jirra. Look, we are still here today. Every person from young organizers in Oromia, those in our armed struggle, to every person in the diaspora was revitalized when he gave us this rallying cry, saying, don't give up, we are still here. Hachalu was unrelenting in naming the violence of the Ethiopian Empire on Oromo lands and people, critically aware of the sacredness that the Oromo view land with, and how the violence perpetuated upon the lands is intrinsically connected to the violence perpetuated on people. He exclaims in Malanjira, Digani gara sana, gara digamu malle, nu basan addam bane, nu addan ba'um malle. They destroyed the mountain that was not to be destroyed. They divided the people, and we should have never been divided. Turning his gaze inward, pensive and reflective, Hachalu offers the following piercing lines of analysis in Mal Malisa. We sacrificed many people of wisdom and heroes, and behold, we have reached here. Anole and Chalanko have passed, yet again we face the unspeakable at Bishoftu. Because we are compassionate, we became easy for our enemies. We have been dying for over a century, and here still we die. And he was never quiet about our role as a people in this violence. He continues in Mal Malisa, Tokko hin du'a, tokko hin ajjesa. One dies and the other does the killing, referring to the traumatizing dynamic where Oromo individuals are frontline workers in the project of violence across Oromia. Perhaps one of the most iconic moments in which Hachalu spoke truth to power, very literally, was at his Millennium Hall performance of 2018. In the presence of Abiy Ahmed of Shimallis Abdisa, the president of Oromia, and many other high-ranking officials, Hachalu came on stage with this uncontainable energy, and he brought attention to the plight of political prisoners across Oromia, and he paid homage to freedom fighters of the past. He said in his Guerrersa, Animalang guerrera ano yadan ye lala, diri guerrere hinkufne hidak alitijra, diri guerrere hinkufne hidak ilintojra, diri guerrere hinkufne hidak archalle jira, archalle ambo jira, ano malang guerrera. Sabako falme, dueta disa birruta. Sabako falme, du'e waqo guutuu ta'a. Biyya koo falme, du'aa olinka dinqii ta'a. Biyya koo falme, du'e balaa zallaqaa ta'a. In naming his final album, Hachalu was posing an outward question to us as a nation. Mal Malisa, what is the solution? But if we look back at the bodies of work that he has released, and in the song Mal Malisa itself, Hachalu is trying to point us forward. Using a long and often heavy winter jacket as an analogy, Hachalu says in Masangama, Ko portan orminama, himbatu yo aban ufi, bata tumale. No outsider is going to carry your weight unless you carry it yourself. He continues by saying that oppression brought upon you by others, by your enemies. Who's going to protect you from it when it is you that must protect yourself? In Mal Malisa, Hachalu is striving to awaken us to see ourselves the way that he saw us, as drivers of our destiny, as protectors of our land and all who live on it. Ala ega hin jotin. Don't wait on the outskirts dreaming, he says, an unrealistic dream. Abju hintane, ka fatu fardakein falmi. Summon your horses and fight. Arat kilov situane. You're closest to what can be considered the center of political power in Ethiopia that is on Oromo land, and that Hachalu's clanspeople, the Tulama, were violently displaced from over a century ago, with that violence continuing today. Right now, we find ourselves in one of those moments in time that will make history. Our political fate as a nation will really be determined by the things that we choose to do now, and most importantly, the ways that we choose to come together as a nation. If you're listening to this, I want you to ask yourself, what would Hachalu do today if he were here? What would he be asking you to do if he were here? I'll tell you what I think. I think he would tell you that you have to fight, that you have every right to fight, that your ancestors fought, and that we're closer than ever to realizing their dream of seeing our lands and our people finally free. I think he would tell you that he was just one of millions of sacrifices, and that the best way to honor all of those sacrifices is to make sure that we are the last generation that ever has to pay in blood. I think he would feel and he would know the weight of this moment and would mobilize every single Oromo to fight or back those on the ground who are fighting to free us. The only appropriate justice for Hachalu's death is that the people and the lands that he lived for finally experience a lasting and real freedom. I think that Hachalu would find anything less unacceptable. Nansobe ijole Oromo.